when it.
Okay. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm super excited because who doesn't love GeoGebra? And we're going to be talking about geometry, and that's what I'm teaching this year. So I'm picking Tim's brain today. If you're not teaching geometry, don't let that scare you away. We're definitely going to cover things that'll be good for anybody, for kindergarten, all the way up through high school, no matter your topic. We're going to be teaching remotely, and all these little tips and tricks are going to help us get there. So, well, not all of us are teaching remotely, but for those of us, well, whatever. We're using GeoGebra, and it's going to be good for all of us. So, Tim, can we start it off with a geometry activity for littles? You got something?
Yes, I did. Actually, I totally forgot. I was focused more in the middle there, but I will find it right now. Let's add Chris. He's just joining here.
Good.
Welcome, Dr. B. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How's everybody today?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here. Sorry I'm a little bit late.
That's okay. That's okay. Totally forgot about the thing there, because Alice, we spent so much time with elementary before, but we could definitely do something right here for some starter activities, at least here. I will put in the chat for elementary. We'll drop it in all the things here. There we go. If you click on any one of those URLs right there, you'll see a lot of resources that you could use right on the spot, right then and there. You ask students to drag the circles into the container, drag the triangles, just basic shape identification. There's resources that are out there for that.
I see a shape sorting. Can you pull one of those up real quick?
Sure. Let me actually take this out of here. So I'm
just gonna ramble if that's cool.
Go for it.
I was having coffee this morning with the math teacher at my new school where I'm teaching, and I was telling him all about how, because he's real nervous, to do the remote teaching, and he wants to be paperless. And I'm like, I didn't even have a clue of all the things that you could do with GeoGebra. It had been so long since I had really gotten into it, and I always thought it was a substitute for Geometry Sketchpad, but really it does so much more. When you throw in the GeoGebra Notes, I was going to say geometry, GeoGebra Notes, it just makes the perfect space for doing any level of math. And I was telling him, like, look, this is the way to do it. You make all your math lessons as an activity in GeoGebra. I mean, even if you're not using a GeoGebra applet, which there's so many of them, you probably could definitely have a GeoGebra applet for any lesson. But even if you're not, just the page itself, just think about a web page where I can embed a video, I can put some text, and of course, because it's GeoGebra, I can add typed math rather, and I can have answer boxes for the students where they can add it as math. So if you're gonna create any kind of a math lesson using GeoGebra or not, GeoGebra Notes, GeoGebra is the way to go. Just creating an activity, you can create any lesson, and it shares right into Google Classroom. So this is the quick and easy way to make all of your math lessons math.
Mathy. Yes, and there's tons of apps too. And you go to the site, it can be confusing at first. That's why we're taking these little half-hour tidbits every single day to learn something a little more that you got right there. But in the social media streams that you're watching this on, we just put the links to those elementary ones that you saw right there. Some more introductory activities. I'm about to put this there in Alice. If you can actually access one of those URLs that I just posted there. All right, I'm going to ask you to go there and share your screen once you do, please.
All right.
Okay.
My hand, it won't let me copy and paste. So.
Okay. I'll drop it. Want me to drop it in the private chat?
No, that's fine. I'll get it. So I'm going to go to geogebra.org.
Yep.
So should other people go to the same link, right? I mean, you tweet it out, so that's obviously yes.
Yep, people can access it.
FPW, okay. I am in there. All right.
Okay. Yep, go ahead and screen share.
Okay, I will screen share. I want application window, this one. Okay, got it.
All right, so right there, those are some introductory activities that I like to give students and teachers. Because the thing is, it's like, I want to address some kind of, I don't know what you call them, like just these like basically these psychological impressions that we teachers often get when we go into the classroom. Many teachers feel that I have to show my students how to do every single thing, you know what I mean, before they start using it. And yeah. I'm thinking, like,
you and I are on the same page about that, that it's them before us.
Right. And so basically I'm thinking, well, if I were to borrow a friend's car, or if I were to rent a car when I go somewhere, or if I were to lease a new car or buy a new car, the car dealer doesn't make sure that I know every bell and whistle about the car before I start driving the car. No.
Right.
What do? I learn about the car as I drive it.
Right.
And think of GeoGebra as the car that your students are now driving. They don't have to know every single thing that it does, but you and they can learn it together. And that's the power of this app right here.
And that idea of learning together with your students is just, that's super powerful, super important to remember. We don't like necessarily feeling like we are constantly the student as teachers, but it really is a powerful lesson for them to learn, that you are learning, that you can learn along with them.
Absolutely.
This is our new normal, though. Before it's like we'd have the same textbook for 15 years. Oh, and maybe we get an updated version, but I'm still doing the same thing. And now that we're using digital tools, there's constantly not only just new digital tools that come out. Forget that. Let's pretend you don't switch up your tools. Whatever tools you're using are going to update. So our new normal is learning new things. And really, it gets easier as you practice doing them. Then you just become more adaptable.
Exactly. And honestly, for teachers that, you feel that you got to teach your students everything techie, I'll just ask you one question. All right. Many of us, I know that when I taught for high school for 15 years, I always found students year after year getting on websites like the School Blocked. I saw high school kids get on Facebook. They got on a lot of other things. They got that. And I was like, well, the thing is, they figured out how to work around IT and school events. So, and these are the same kids that could watch a YouTube song by their band that comes out after 3 listens. They know the lyrics by heart. And they figure out how to circumvent IT. A lot of kids do. So if they're capable of that kind of tech and doing stuff like that, there's no reason why they can't learn how GeoGebra is used. And it's pretty, it's a natural way to go, And so how did you, yes, we could YouTube things, we could do that, but it's like we all learn differently. But the thing is, we have to actively engage to learn. Same with teachers, same with students. And I'm proud to say that I learned a lot of GeoGebra from my students when I was making the Sketchpad to GeoGebra and Desmos C transitions several years ago.
I'd like to even just throw in, even if you do know how to do it, it's so empowering for kids to feel like they got to have some input and they taught you something.
Right.
That relationship building where it goes both ways is so powerful. Sometimes I'll just pretend I forgot or that I don't know how.
Exactly. So right here, Alice, if you could just go, for example, again, teachers, there's no one right way to start, but basically what I will encourage you all to do, especially for those of you teaching geometry in any subject, don't make day number 1 about you. Make it about them. Because teachers be all like, oh, here's my class policies, here's my rules, here's my this, here's my that. But again, who's the center of attention? It's you. Well, like again, I'm not saying this is the right way. It was just the way that worked for me and my students, but I made it my goal to try to memorize as many names on the first day as possible. If I get to know a student's name within 2 or 3 days, they're like, wow, that's cool. And you don't see me in light of my older brother and sister whose shadow I always live under. You know what I mean? It's like, to get to know the kids' names, it means a lot to them. But while I'm learning them.
Since we're talking remote learning, let me give a great tool to do that. Use Flipgrid. They just came out with a bunch of new features. I'm going to have to play with that today. But even though GeoGebra is Flipgrid's not a GeoGebra product, it will work together because they have screen sharing that you can record in Flipgrid, so students can be doing their things in GeoGebra through Flipgrid, screen recording it and sharing their thinking out loud. So that's one of the ways where we're concerned, like, how do we know the students are doing the work? When we integrate GeoGebra with using the Flipgrid, I get to see their face, I learn their name. It's just a great way to have these social connections. And so I just want to encourage everyone to try and pair that up together.
Absolutely. And also GeoGebra Classroom too. So Alice, if you can also, while we're at it, remember the 2 windows there, if you could create or maybe we could do that after, but why don't we just actually take time? We've showed GeoGebra Classroom a lot. Could you just go to the New York City one, please? That's one possibility, just for ha-has, right? All I did, and I've had this on paper before. I used to have this printed on copy paper with, rulers and, for students, but here's the digital analog. And so all it shows here is a map of New York City, and see Central Park and Empire State Building, they're plotted right there. Okay. I ask kids, I tell them, I want to open a restaurant in New York City. Now I'm thinking very simple, but the thing is, where would I want to put my restaurant? Well, I'm thinking, why would I want to put it? Ask my students, why would I want to put it why would I care where Empire State Building and Central Park are? Now, let's think about that for a second. Like, oh, well, they have heavy tourist attractions. So maybe if you put yourself the same distance away from the two, you'll maybe get more customers. Maybe, I don't know. Again, a very simple way of thinking. But see if you can plot as many points on that map, Alice, that are the same distance away from both black points there.
All right. I haven't done this. Do I
But
just
see, yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Play with it.
So I'm just like, where might be a spot that's the same distance from both? Is that what you said?
Yeah, when the directions, exactly. Okay. And basically, well, how do you know that point C is the same distance away from those two black markers from Google Maps?
So we have a question. If I'm teaching in Zoom, how do I get the link to my students so that they can open one of the activities, like the one about the shape sorting?
I would actually just do it on the chat in Zoom. I find that the easiest way. You know, if Zoom's got the chat feature, you just drop it in.
Two of them there. I would totally agree with that. Put in the chat. But then if you're using Google Classroom, you have the stream. If you are on Microsoft Teams, of course, it has the whole chat feature on there. Actually, Teams is really super awesome because right in the channel chat and the screen sharing chat are the same. So it's a great way to get everybody on the same page.
Absolutely. So basically, Alice, can you, and again, in GeoGebra Classroom, I'll be able to see all the students' work in real time. But like, so if I'm the teacher seeing your work, how do I know that point C is the same distance from both? Can you convince me that it is?
Am I supposed to be acting like a ninth grader?
Yeah. In a virtual setting. Well, it's like, you know, say, Alice, that looks pretty cool. That looks good to me, but can you use GeoGebra to help me? Again, I haven't told you how to use the tools, but you're playing with the app and you're figuring it out. And that's the logical connection I make for teachers here is Alice is figuring out how to heck use the GeoGebra here. You know what I mean?
All right, so I realized if I drew the line, it would just measure it. I was like,
the segment.
I don't see a ruler option on here on this activity.
Well, I actually pre-programmed it this way on purpose. I mean, normally it doesn't show the value, but I made sure it does just because I want to actually ease the tech integration into here, you know, but whatever.
Look at that.
Little off. But can you get some more maybe? Or like, can you move C around?
Can I do better? I ruined your example because I did so good.
No, you didn't ruin it. You didn't ruin my example. You didn't ruin it.
All right, so that one was worse.
But the thing is, GeoGebra is dynamic. This is not paper where I have to erase. Can you move those points around, please? How do you move F and C around? You could drag them. Okay.
Oh, there we go. And so just want to throw in again, if your students, you know, you can do it on the GeoGebra Classroom, right? As you can see them do this, and especially if you're in a live video chat, you can encourage the students as you see what they're doing. But if they're asynchronous, they can be using the Flipgrid to screen record this because I want to hear the like I was like, oh, it put it on there. Like I want to hear that from my students. Is something I can't really get from paper is hearing from each student as they explore and for them to, as they drag it, say, well, that obviously doesn't work because, oh my gosh, that's my favorite word in the whole universe is because, as I want to train my students to constantly give me the because word.
Exactly. And so now,
Alice, I want to interrupt and ask a question for, you know, us more aged teachers. How long does it take you to teach, you know, to help students get used to actually creating a screencast of their work? I mean, is that a heavy lift to teach students?
Well, I don't know about your kids, but my kids are all on YouTube. So, you know, I hate the word digital native. It's not true. It's how much experience you have with using technology. So I think many of our kids are used to making some TikTok videos and some of these that won't take them that long. But no matter what we're doing, grace and whatever you're doing is going to take 3 times longer than you think it is. I think that's one of the things you have to think about for this remote learning is like, well, I think it should take this long. No, it's going to take 3 times that long. So just kind of keeping that in mind.
Which means quality is going to be way more important than quantity. Okay. Remember, teaching has nothing to do with what you cover. It has everything to do with what the student is able to do, demonstrate mastery, and accomplishes. So, Alice, how do you move F? Now I would ask my students. Now I might extend this and say, hey, I would like you to plot at least 10 or 15 points on there of where I could set up my business now. Can you show me all the points that are the same distance away from E and D? You know what I mean? And so we don't have time to do that now.
Did it, and then like, well, is there another place? Or I don't know that you would necessarily think about that in the normal way that I would. Because I look for the place that's equidistant, as opposed to the idea that there's a lot of them. And again, I can, do it through exploration.
Sure. And again, something like this, I would think, Chris.
You said 15 of them. You get them a big enough number, it really forces you to start getting creative.
Exactly. And again, some geometry teachers are thinking, oh, and this is a way I can have them discover. Let's talk teacher to teacher now. Isn't this the way that students can naturally come to discover that all those points that are the same distance away, they kind of line up? They're all, what's that? Oh, collinear. Ah, okay. So you see all the formality jargon, Chris, that should come what? Later, right?
Much later, yeah. Jargon is the ultimate goal of abstraction, right? We create these things. We create words to hold whole ideas at once, but we have to build the idea before we give them a name that we can boil down to a single item.
Exactly.
Right? So the single item of perpendicular bisector, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean diddly if you haven't, done the work to figure out why that matters.
Yeah,
so, exactly.
I know that I feel like the lessons that I've seen and have done were just, draw the line, do the perpendicular bisector. And as you said, Chris, I didn't understand what's the purpose of that. I mean, I'm told it's equidistant and all these things, but if you don't have an experience, you don't have a personal connection to it, it really doesn't mean anything, even if I could get it right on the test.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So again, this is just one of some activities you could try. Would you go to the daisy construction? Let's look at maybe 2 more at most. We're not going to look at all of them.
Hey, I didn't even notice this. I could just get them right on the sides.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have to go back to that. It's right there, visible, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the book. You got the stuff on the side there. But this activity is one from Steve Phelps. He gives the students this one. Just look at. You can move. Go ahead and play with the first one there. You can just move stuff around.
What?
And yeah, it's like it appeals to the artists, right? Those who are very artistically minded. So then all I ask students to do below is just see if you can build it. Oh. You don't know how to use the app yet, but I mean, if you look,
I love this is don't tell them how to use it. And it does. And so back to my point, it's going to take 3 times longer, but I'm going to get it better.
Exactly. So I love not giving students the first way to do, like just tell them everything step by step.
And they get mad, but it gives them the impression, what I like about it is it gives the impression that there's not one way to do it. So the problem is when you demonstrate and you tell kids, they think that's how to do it.
Right.
So,
right.
So I'm thinking that there's an undo. Is there a clear?
Yes, if you hit, you could always refresh the page, a simple way, but scroll up a little bit. You see the trash can delete in the tools to the left, scroll down.
Oh, there it is. Okay, great.
See the trash, and you could just kind of like do an eraser, just touch things in the construction and it'll, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Exactly. But see, doing this, I used to do this with my kids the first week or 2 of school. I don't care about, I get them to learn how to use apps like GeoGebra and others. And then when we come to discover stuff later, they're quick with building. You can take time to have your kids play with an app and get to know it well. There's no one says you can't, you can. All right. Again, quality, not quantity. And even though I haven't taught you the perpendicular bisector there and back, whatever the other one, it's like students are intuitively getting the sense of, oh, wait, you know what I mean?
So the thing that I love so many things about Robert Kaplinski. Robert Kaplinski at robertkaplinski.com, he has got an activity where they have to get it wrong at least 3 times or something like this. So it's got his piece of paper to where the kid's like, attempt number 1, attempt number 2, attempt number 3. I'm trying to remember what his minimum number of attempts are. He's like, if you get it right the first time, you don't get credit. You don't get full credit. That we have this mindset that you explore and that being a mathematician is not about knowing what to do first, but more about thinking. My first step is, well, let me just explore and play even if it's not right. So you'll know that's what I started doing. Like, well, I don't know how to make this. But at first was just like, well, how do I make circles? And so that's where I'm like, okay, well, now I got I played with this. now I wanted the trash can because I wanted to start over, where I can start to, think about, okay, I see that the dots are on the side, and I'm trying to think about how I would recreate this using a tool that, I'm not a heavy GeoGebra user. I've used it a little bit. I know a big reason that we're doing this whole broadcast is so that I can get free PD from you, because I'm going to need it for teaching this year. And yeah, so the GeoGebra, I'm able to play with it and not feel like I'm being judged. I feel like a lot of times kids just are given the impression they're supposed to know what to do first, and then don't erase. Just, it better just be perfect the way that it is. And that's really not the way we learn. So I wanted to first, I wanted to make a mess. Like, I wasn't even trying to recreate this thing. Okay, so now I'm going to try and recreate it. I'm just wondering how I can duplicate this circle.
Well, what tool do you need for that? Okay, but how do you know that? Can I ask you a question? How do you know that circle passes through A? You centered it at B, right? But how do you know that it goes through A? Yeah,
I don't. I just eyeball it.
And these are the conversations I'd have with my kids second, third day of school. I don't have an agenda. My ultimate goal is to engage you as much as possible. That's my goal, right? And you will pick up when you play with this app more and more, But for time's sake, Alice, if you scroll back, exactly as Rolando says, students can learn from their mistakes. As a teacher making instructional decisions, all of us can put ourselves in that boat, But right there, if you Alice, if you scroll up a little bit, I think in the tools on the left side there.
Okay.
If you go to move, I think, or hit the blue arrow right there, that allows you to move stuff around. So can you move? Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
You did it.
Yeah, but okay.
See how move is highlighted? Now drag B around. See how it's not going through A like you wanted it to?
Okay.
So let's delete that. How could we fix that problem, you think? There we go. So we got there. So now we'll start over. That's cool. Some students want to start over. So we need a circle, of course, right?
Okay, I got a circle.
Yeah. And now how do I draw a circle? What do you want this next circle to do? Where's the center got to be?
I still want to play with this some.
Go right ahead. No rush.
The center of them is at the intersection of 3 other circles.
Uh-huh.
So, but I don't have the 3 circles. So I have to think about well, then where would that be?
Let's see.
That's the parts that I like to capture is the ponderings.
Yes.
Yeah. So could we create a means by which students could take a snapshot here and post it in a Google slide that says, I don't know, I'm stuck.
Yes.
Right? Maybe put an Bitmoji in there. It's
you totally could. Absolutely could.
Here's how I might upgrade this activity for myself. Can I?
You could.
I might want to just take this applet that you have and put it in there 20 times, because I really want it. The problem that I'm having is that I have one space. And if as a teacher, if I want to see their productive struggle, I would like the word show your work to die. If I could never hear that again, I'd be so happy.
Yep.
It's really about the thinking. I want to see their thinking, their strategies, their processes. So I think if I were to steal this activity, I would take this applet and put it in a bunch of times to give the impression play here, play again. Now what's the first way that you would do it? Didn't work. Don't erase it necessarily. And I want to give the impression that I expect that through experimentation, I want to see all their failure. Don't show your work, show your failure. That's my...
Totally. I agree with you. And so that solution is easy, Alice. You can do that in 30 seconds. So what you want to do to do that quickly, to make your own custom version like we showed before, go to the 3 dots in the upper right corner.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And just like a Google Doc, you want to make your own editable, not the book, just do the activity. You want to do the single. A book is the whole compilation, but you want to do the single activity there.
Okay, cool.
And see, just like Google, copy of.
Right there.
Now, hit copy. You got it right there. Hit that a bunch of times.
for it.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to do. Except I'm going to just change
Change
some
the.
directions just a little bit.
Yep.
And, the first one, I'm going to maybe say okay, right? Just give them permission to play around and have, remember, I think my first one, I don't know, it was a hot mess. It was just some circles and, going through that way. That might be how I do it.
Can I tell you one more thing? If you can actually put text in there too, students can type their thoughts out if you want them to. If you hit more right there, or if you hit the more, it's
okay.
Where it says in the left side, hit more.
On the left. Oh, more. Okay.
Under basic tools. Yeah.
Basic. Yeah. So scroll down a little bit, a little more. It's way at the bottom, I think. Scroll down even more. See where it says text right there. Click in the white off to the right side there, and you could type in a message. Hey, here's my thinking, Miss Keeler. Blah 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 blah.
Off to the right. No, it's not an applet.
No, in the app, off to the white space in the app. There you go. Type in a message. Hello. You know what I mean? You could put text in there.
Oh yeah. And
students can express their thoughts to you. Now, teachers, imagine assigning this in GeoGebra Classroom where you can see all the kids work at once, as we said before.
I could also, I could add an element where I ask a question. Wait, did I click it? Ask a question. So I'm like, what did you observe in this attempt? Right? But to me, that's, I just really love that Robert Kaplinski.
Openmiddle.com. Check him out.
Well, yeah, there's openmiddle.com, but it's actually on his website, robertkaplinski.com. It's probably in the blog. And he's got an example of, he's got some paper, and it's on paper, that one. I did redo it in slides. I just don't remember what I called it. And it's attempt 1, attempt 2, attempt 3. And I just want students to get into the habit of showing me their productive struggle, their attempt. They're explaining why they attempted again. Well, why are you trying again? What did you notice? You're like, oh, I just made a mess of this. I was just trying to figure out how big the circles were. Awesome. Okay. Right. Now, Chris.
Yeah, just a quick question, kind of along the lines of what you're talking about there, Alice. But Tim, is it possible that I, as an instructor, can also give textual feedback to a student in the midst of this that's sort of separated and it's clear that it's from me?
Yes. I mean, are you asking about because on Zoom, we could have the private chat. Are you talking that stuff, or Google Classroom private comments? There's that option, I would think.
I'm thinking sort of like the Google Classroom private comments sort of thing. Is it possible within a student's classroom activity like this?
Yes, it all depends on the platform you're using. If I assign this as a task in Google Classroom, yes, I can private chat with the student up the wazoo, totally.
Correct.
And in other LMSs. Within GeoGebra Classroom, in the context we explored the past couple of days, that functionality is not there yet, but it is coming.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I would just like to make an observation that it is 11:31, and I had no idea we'd been talking for 30 minutes already. I feel like I'm completely in the flow, and I'm like, the bell's rung, and I don't want to go. This is where I want my students to be. And it was as simple as, hey, you can explore in this tool, and then I've just lost complete track of time. No offense to you, Tim, but if I can point out, in the first week that we were doing this, as we're trying to learn the platform here of the StreamYard, you were demonstrating all the things, and I turned off my camera and checked my phone, and I don't think that's unusual for students when someone else is doing the thinking. That's not as engaging as you doing the thinking. So again, back to let's just start with having them play.
Totally. And in that URL there, Alice, there's tons of other we could do a part 2 tomorrow, some other intro examples.
We didn't get very far because I'm playing. And
so what?
Point, it's going to take 3 times as long. And guess what? I'm having a good time. I'm engaged. I'm going to remember this.
Right.
Yeah, but 3 times as long doing something that actually sticks.
Right.
You're doing sticky stuff rather than, throwing stuff on the wall and it's uncooked spaghetti, right? And it just bounces off. So you need the opportunity to take long to learn deep and important stuff.
Absolutely.
My favorite thoughts, about learning is ideas take time to form. Big ideas take big time. So allow those big ideas the time it needs to get there.
Absolutely. And
here is he's like, ask students to try and communicate. Show your work and do all of the steps. Doesn't take as long as show your strategy, show your thinking, explain to me what you're doing, and that reflection makes the learning better, but it takes longer.
It does. And Tracy also says here, it says, but the points made about the time, being mindful of students, that yes, we know they have other classes, which is why we as teachers, I firmly believe, need to be mindful of the quantity of curriculum that students learn in any one given time, like our lesson objectives. I mean, like student teachers, the biggest problem they have is they have so much jammed in maybe one lesson. And it's like, you're going to be, as a mentor teacher, yeah, you're lucky if you get through two, but they have to learn, And this is a learning curve for all of us with this remote thing going on. We're all learning.
Absolutely.
It's
let's get it right up front.
Left off tomorrow because I'm totally into this.
We'll do part 2 tomorrow with geometry. There's a lot of other fun stuff we can explore. Yeah. Just figuring it out,
Woo-hoo. Thanks for this.
For sure.
It's awesome.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. So
thanks everybody for coming. Are we shutting down now?
All right.
I guess it's about a half hour. So see you tomorrow, guys.